What's going on, guys? Chris, the Bonafide Hustler, coming to you live from my office. Anyway, it's a beautiful day here in Austin, Texas. We are sitting here on a Thursday, and I did want to try a little something different on my channel, just something that I think could really inspire people and throw them in the right direction. If you're lost or you're trying to up your game, no matter if it's in business, entrepreneurship, life. I think this show is going to be of value. So just remember one thing as we proceed through the show, and that is if you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment afterwards. I plan to look at all the comments down the road and to see where the show needs to head. I would love to do multiple types of this type show. So we'll see where this one goes. Anyway, before I think I proceed onwards, because really who's going to look at this? Maybe a majority of my people, but it might end up getting people outside of the reselling space as well coming to look at it. So a little bit of background about me. My name is Chris. I also go by the Bonafide Hustler. I am a founder or co-founder of greenroomuniversity.com, which is my business, one of my businesses. I also resell now, I guess, full-time, part-time, however you want to call it, because we do run the green room in the background. And that I do on a very regular basis. I love doing it. So yeah, I'm an active reseller, meaning I buy stuff that I find from garage sales, estate sales, yard sales, flea markets, pawn shops, swap meets, and even big box stores. And I put it on places like eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, my antique booth, and consignment stores in town. I'm also, I would consider myself a fairly educated dude. Graduated high school, graduated college, have an MBA. I've done I've done my corporate America stint. I've left it, right, to work for myself. I've also been in the gambit between corporate America, true entrepreneurship, and then this middle ground, which is kind of like the gray area of it's entrepreneurship, but you really don't kind of own it. So I have done a job in that middle area, which is kind of cool. But more important than that, I think throughout all those things, right, I have a lot to give to you guys when it comes to advice or just things that I've noticed have led me down the road the right way. And so this show isn't by any means going to be encompassing in the sense that these 5 things I want to talk to you guys about aren't the only 5 things that matter, okay? There are a lot more things that matter, but I thought these were at least a good way to bring a show down here to YouTube and to at least get you guys, interest peaked on some things that I think really, really matter when it comes down to whether you're working for someone else or working for yourself, where you want a better life or something like that. I think these 5 things are really going to help you out. So they're, if you look at it, very broad, right? We're talking bird's eye view, but to be cognizant of these 5 things on an everyday basis is very, very important. So anyway, let's talk about who's in the feed right now. We have 26 viewers. Crazy Xmas 1, Crazy Christmas 1 is in here. Brian Kruger, Timothy Grapp, ComfortZoneStudio.com. Okay, so let's kind of get into, I'll read a couple comments right here. We have Crazy Christmas 1, listening and learning right now. Thanks, Bonafide, for always the great videos. You're welcome. Jason Templeman, what's up? He's saying hi to everybody. Brian Kruger says, good morning. I love the live shows. Timothy Grapp, I've had the pleasure of meeting Timothy back in July. Yo, I'm in the house. Frank Chupetta, hey, Bonafide Hustler, what is going on? And Comfort Zone Studio says, hi, Mr. Bonafide. Thanks as always for always the super useful information. If you are looking at this right now, you're probably in part of my reselling group. So if you see this later on down the road and you're not a reseller, I got to tell you that if you get into reselling, it's quite the loophole and it feels really good. I'm glad that this is one of the skills that I've learned in life, because I think it's one of those skills where not only do you get to make incredible money on the side, right, or even full-time, right, but you also get a realistic look on what items are truly worth in this world and how the secondhand market is absolutely fine. It's perfectly fine to wear used goods. And you realize, like, you are blowing a lot of money on really dumb things, right? So you have to, I think the resale game is something that people absolutely need to incorporate into their life, at least at some way, fashion, or form. You have to do it, okay? Even if you do it for a couple months or a year, it's very important to go into places, to look at garage sales, to see what truly, these goods what do they amount to, right? These $40 shirts you might buy at a store, they're like $5 and below at thrift stores. So you could save yourself $35 a shirt. Start thinking about that kind of stuff. $35 a tank of gas. It's a great meal with the wife and kids. It's a lot of things if you start thinking about it. Multiply that times every other thing in your life that you might be paying full price for. And this is one of the main reasons why when I think about reselling, I think about it as a way to make money and also for me to save money, which in turn helps me make money, right? Does that make sense? So anyway, Patrick Kehoe is saying retail is for suckers. Yeah, there's certain things that I buy new. I ain't gonna lie. But I try in every way to hustle or get a better deal on just about everything. So anyway, it's good to see everybody. We got Oz Worldwide, David Madriaga. There are a lot of people in here, but I want to start getting to number one, okay? And this is number one. Remember, this show is not pigeonholing into like reselling or anything like that, but this is now we're going, backwards and looking at some of the things that really I think made me the way that I am and made me look at things a little bit differently. And I just think it's time to share some of these things with you guys, and hopefully in your life, maybe it can bring some light to some of the confusing thoughts that you might have, or is this the right way to act in this scenario? So very, very interesting kind of things that we're going to be talking about. So the very first thing that I want to talk about is treat people with respect. I think this is very, very important, and I think a lot of people don't realize how important this is. The second you start downplaying someone, right? What they wear, what they look like, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think anyone really realizes how terrible of a trait that is. You have to treat people with respect because you kind of get what you put in. Second of all, you don't ever know that other person truly unless you are that person. Does that make sense? You don't know the trials and tribulations that person's been through. You don't know the complete triumphs in business this person has done, or maybe the complete failures in business this person's done. There's a lot to learn from each person, and they don't have to be successful either. It could be the homeless person on the corner. There's a lot of things to learn from people, and that's why you need to respect people, because quite honestly, if it wasn't for good people like your parents or anybody that you've ever interacted with in your life, you wouldn't be who you are now, right? People that took the time to respect you, right, ultimately crafted you into the person that you are now. So one of the things I think that people kind of have trouble with when it comes to treat people with respect is that some people have trouble treating people with respect that they know that just every facet of their life, they just don't agree with this person, right? They're just like, all right, that person is not successful. Maybe they're not attractive. They just do really unprofitable things. And that's fine, right? There's a difference between treating people with respect and distancing with people, right? And I think that's a very important kind of thing. There's nothing truly wrong with distancing yourself. But I think there's everything wrong with treating people disrespectfully. Very, very wrong things with that. Problem is, I think in this world, it's getting much easier now to do this kind of stuff, to disrespect people and then just kind of sit behind your computer screen, or disrespect people and then now you're hiding behind your iPhone. I think we live in a world where we're going to see more of that. And that's kind of unfortunate, but we've made it easier for ourselves to just kind of cloak, right? If you got a bad habit, it's really easy to cloak it these days, right? So this is one of these things that I think every time you go around your town, you interact with people, just know, and this is one of my firm beliefs, is I can always learn something from everybody, right? Even if it's the 6-year-old Turkish kid across the street, which we do have a 6-year-old Turkish kid across the street. I'm learning things, right? You might be asking, like, what the hell are you going to learn from a 6-year-old Turkish kid across the street? You know what I'm learning? I'm learning their habits on a phone. I'm learning what they're messing with behind the scenes. I'm learning about their culture, right? And before you know it, the father sees that I'm actually giving the kid a chance. Guess what? I'm getting invited to lunches and dinners where I get to experience Turkish food. Really amazing things can happen when you actually pay respect to people, and regardless of age, socioeconomic class, race, all that kind of stuff. Like the second you let go of that kind of stuff and you really treat people as I wouldn't say an opportunity, but treat people as a vehicle to learn more about yourself and something else, right? Yourself and something else. Yourself being, you learn more self-worth, right? You really learn that humans are just an interesting race altogether. And then you get to learn about other people and their experiences. I think it's freaking fantastic. So Here's a comment right here. Oz Worldwide, do unto others as you would like done to you. I say it as you get what you put in, right? So if you put 0 in, you get 0 out. We have someone here is from Austin, Texas as well. Jason Templeman. Hey man, if you want to meet up for a coffee or whatever, you want me to show you some reselling ropes, or if you're a reseller and you want to hustle with me, hit me up on Bonafide Hustler Facebook. Okay. So yeah, that's the very first thing I want to discuss with you guys, right? Very broad, very broad. However, something to definitely keep in the back of your head, especially on days where you feel like people are the enemy, right? Or something just isn't going right, or people are they're completely fascinating, down from from the person that might work on your car to the Starbucks barista to the person that fixes your bicycle. Everyone's got a great story. Everyone's got something to give. The question is, are you the right kind of person to unlock it and to hear it? So let's talk about number 2. And this is one of these shows where we kind of go back and forth. I look at the feed and I look at remarks. If I'm off base, that's great. You can tell me. If I'm not off base, then we can talk about that too. We can talk about how it deals with in your life and everything like that. And this is one of these times where, through the beauty of the internet, I get to hook up with other people out there in the world through YouTube and the chat and everything, and where I get to really, see if this is one of these things that is similar with other people, or if this is one of these things where maybe I'm an anomaly, which I don't hope that's not the case, really. I hope it's not that. But anyway, let's talk about number 2, which is interesting because now we just talked about, treat people with respect. Number 2, you might think, well, that's kind of like the opposite. So allow me to elaborate. But I say be willing to craft your circle. That's number 2. And I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful a circle is. If you ever watched that movie Meet the Fockers, right, where they talk about here's the circle and you're in or you're out, you know what I'm talking about. It was a very famous scene. But it's one of those things. Your circle should be one of the most guarded kind of things, and here's why. Because the circle ultimately dictates who you become and how you act is the circle. And the circle is anything from family and friends, and whatever you keep closest to you, that's your circle. Now, you'll hear, not aspiring entrepreneurs, but true blood, straight up, like the most well-known entrepreneurs tell you that you're the average of your 5 friends, right? Your 5 closest friends, which couldn't be further from the truth. So this is one of the reasons why being willing to craft your circle is very, very important. When I was in college, I had a very interesting circle. I think my circle, as opposed to being, I would say it was like 4 strong, and right outside that circle there was probably another circle of like literally 5,000 or 10,000 people that I would just be like, you know what, I'm willing to do something for any of these people. Like, they just knew me real well. They're like, hey, you want to come to a party? Go to a party. When you want to go to this, you want to go to that, concerts, whatever. And it's just like I had my immediate circle, and for some reason my immediate circle, we would always travel around with that big ass other circle. And that was one of the reasons why, some people might be like, well, how the hell did you even know like 5,000 people, 10,000 people? That's literally impossible. Not really. Because I exercised number 1 very, very religiously, which was teach people with respect. And we're also going to be going to some other things that I really, 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 number 3 is one of the other reasons why I was able to have that type of like a thing, right, going on. But my circle back in college was, I kept my 5 closest friends, and one was an aspiring doctor. The other, I got to tell you about my circle real quick. So one was an aspiring doctor that entered college with like 68 credits. I'm not even kidding. So I was like, holy crap, like this dude's going to like graduate by the time he's like a junior, right? And he did. So he never did a senior year. He graduated 2.5 years into college. He was done. And he became a doctor and everything like that. The second person in my circle, who I was like really fond of and I semi looked up to, got along with, but then he had some kind of crazy tendencies, was a person named Michael Mast, who later went down the road to create Mast Brothers Chocolate out of Brooklyn, right? Now, if you're like, what the hell is that? Look it up. Mast Brothers Chocolate. Only people like Martha Stewart know about this. Michelle Obama. They're one of the craftiest chocolatier people that you've ever seen in your entire life. Anyway, so big success story, multimillionaire kind of guy now. Other person in my circle worked hard to impress his father in business. Left college, worked for Enron. Not even kidding you, right? So there was that one. And that was interesting. I think he had interned with Bain and Company, some of these other consulting firms, like in the off season, and Walt Disney and all that kind of stuff. And then, off he goes to Enron, which was literally back in, like, let's say 2001 or 02. Like, Enron was like the job to have after college. Like, if you got a job with Enron, like, literally you were the what. But we all know what happened to Enron. But then again, no one really ever saw it coming, except for the people that were like semi higher up in that company. But yeah, that my circle was that, and then, like, a mountain biker dude named Kylie, that was really cool. I hung out with him all the time. And then there was one other guy, my friend Grady, right? And Grady taught me a lot of number 3, although I knew a lot about number 3, but number 3 taught me a lot about that, a lot about self-worth, a lot about all that kind of stuff. Now Grady is a trauma specialist person that, like, does devices right next to a surgeon, works out of Louisiana, extreme cyclist. So, all pretty successful people, I would say, my circle. In in every way possible, they all got kind of good. I guess people would be like, oh, that's really good luck to all of them. But I can tell you right now that their destiny was pretty much carved out. They were hard workers, including myself. So, so that was that. And I think your circle absolutely will influence your success and your demise, right? So when most people are like, well, that, I got to tune my circle, and that's true. You got to tune your circle if you want success out of it. That's true. If you don't tune your circle and you got some really bad seeds in there, that's only going to bog you down. So that's not good. And that's where the demise part comes in, because some people have 4 people, 5 people in their circle that are just like constant negative thinkers, thinking the world's crumbling, never want to try anything new, stuck in dead-end jobs. And yeah, I hate to break it to you, but that's pretty much like a setup for demise for yourself. So you got to be very careful with that. So that leads to the next point, which is, like, you must build your circle the way that you want it. Okay. And this is one of the hardest parts. This is where you must make, as a CEO of your own life, you must make executive decisions on who to delete and what parts of the company need to go away. And I think this is very important to do. And this is where the distancing part comes in to play. It's one of these things where it might not seem right to do it, but you know that if you continue down the same road, nothing good will come, right? And none of your dreams and aspirations will ever materialize if you're around people that are bogging you down. So this is where you might need to consider deleting friends, family. And when I say delete, I say it in the sense of, like, closing out a program, right? It's still always there, and you can still always open up the program, but it's deleted off your main screen, right? So you can focus on whatever you want on your main screen as your main thing. It doesn't mean you're being selfish or anything like that. It just means that you really care about something so powerful that you're willing to do anything and everything, and to really get around like-minded people, because like-minded people is where the mastermind effect comes in. It's where, you get crazy ideas and you get stuff like that. And that's what you kind of need if you're heading down this, like, life, business, entrepreneurship kind of thing. You need ideas. You need people that are thinking. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting comments coming through. Okay. So I will get to some of these comments. Some of them are freaking fantastic. I'll read one right now. I'll read 2. Nick's Dynasty says, yeah, I'm like you. I would say I have over 1,000 of my outside circle, social butterfly. This is going to get to number 3, which is basically the social butterfly stay social kind of point. Timothy Grapp says, relationships and networking is so important in business and everyday life. You never know when the next time you will be in need of help. Help others as long as it doesn't hurt yourself. I love that point. Yeah, so let's talk about now number 3, which is stay social. And I got to tell you, like, I don't know. I personally think that I actually figured this one out on my own, and with help from certain integral people in my life, I was able to, like, really like craft this thing, like, all the way to the top. But let's get back to the the inception of where this kind of started and everything like that. My family was a really good family. I want to tell you, like, I was, brought up with. I never had an allowance or anything like that, but I grew up in a good place, in Houston, Texas. It wasn't a rich neighborhood, but it was nice. The house was paid off. My dad was a doctor. So, like, you can kind of paint the picture, like, all right, so, like, I wasn't a spoiled kid though, right? The same BMX I was riding, like, I got a BMX back in, like, just for an example, I got a BMX back in like, I don't know, when I was 8. I was still riding that BMX at age 12, 13, 14. You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents were just like, yeah, it's made out of steel, learn how to fix it. And that's basically it. It was such a junky BMX too. Like, it was a huffy BMX to the point where when I would jump it and I would land, the handlebars would kind of like bend forward or bend backwards. Doesn't matter how hard I torqued, you know, the stem nut or anything like that, like, just happened. So that kind of shows you like the quality of my dad. Was a very, I would say at that point, he was wealthy, interested in making investments and all that kind of stuff. And he was very, very, careful with money, which is, I think, important. But when it comes to the social thing, he was social to an extent, but not really a whole lot. So that kind of like, I saw that and I kind of saw that, okay, he's kind of all about money, and that's cool. But he also did interesting things in my life to where, every weekend we would go to the beach, which is Galveston, Texas. If you're from Houston, Galveston's the closest beach. And people are like, wow, isn't that the place with the brown water? And it is. Isn't that the place with the jellyfish? Yeah, it is. Isn't that the place where all the tankers would break down and there's oil all over the beach? Yeah, that would happen too. So he would do things on the weekends to, like, I guess, bond with the family, but I think it was really for him to decompress. So he worked really, really hard, and that's a good thing. But when it came to the social thing, he would work so hard to where when it was like time off the job, I don't think he really wanted to socialize with anybody. It's almost like he became a hermit, and I don't think that's a very good thing, right? I think working hard and being social goes hand in hand. So when I came of age and I was like, a budding, aspiring teenager dude, whatever you want to call it, I started seeing these things and I was like, wow, I could be silent in class, or I could be silent in class. I might become the nerd kid, right? I might be the kind of person like, stay away from that dude. Look, he barely talks. I could become that guy. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? But that's never going to help me meet girls. It's never going to help me, have play partners to where I want to go riding bikes or play football. That's not going to help. Like, if you're just silent and keep to yourself, that doesn't really come into play. And I started thinking like, well, these are all the things that I want, but if I continue down this road, kind of like my father, then I might not ever be able to see that. So I decide, like, you know what? And this happened like in high school, because right about sixth grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I didn't realize it. But right around 9th grade and up, I was like, holy crap. I had a mission. I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat everyone with respect. I'm going to meet everyone. I'm going to meet all the girls. And I'm going to, be cool with all the guys. I wasn't able to fit in that like super high group, where all the super jocks are and everything like that. There was just something, there was a barrier. And I looking back at it now, I don't even know what it really was, but I was accepted, but I wasn't, right? And but when it came down to meeting girls and all that kind of stuff, I was 100% accepted. Like, everyone was just like, yeah, we want to be Chris's friend because he's always talking to all these girls, and that's cool. But then when it came down to like these super parties and everything like that, I didn't get invited to like 90% of them. So I stayed social, right? I thought with my staying social, it increased my luck with girls back in high school, which it did. And it really increased my view on human beings at that point too, where I was like, man, there's just so much to learn from everybody. Even like the nerdy, quiet person in the corner that's a male or a female, there's still something to learn. There's something there that's like making them tick. And I gave everyone a fair chance in high school, met everyone. Everyone knew me back in high school. And I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. Also, I think this leads to where I was in college. And in college, if you knew anything about me, which some people that might watch this show one day down the road, they would be like, you know what, that's like the guy that people wanted to know in college. Now, I went to a college that had 53,000 people in it, and it was a great time. I would never trade that for the world, because that's where really Stay Social made a whole lot of sense. It was my mission, like back in the day, right? And you would think, well, aren't grades like part of your mission, your priorities? Honestly, my priorities were not that. My priorities were to be as social as possible, to go to a whole lot of parties, and to meet a whole lot of girls. Like, that was really it. And then the last was like grades. And then after that was like, well, maybe I should get a tiny job at the bookstore so I can spend some money on something, right? So I think in college it was very important because it allowed me to, and I think it's even more important now, right, to stay social because even if you're a budding entrepreneur and you're in college, gosh, if I could give anything, and that's the tough thing about life is I've always looked through life going, I never want to have any regrets, right? I never want to have any regrets. And here's one of the crazy parts about where we live now, because we live in a YouTube lifestyle, Facebook, Twitter, all this kind of stuff. And I find myself constantly thinking, and maybe this is like you guys too, all right? But I find uh, myself constantly thinking, man, I would give anything to be young again, anything. But I think about it in the sense that if I could go back and know what I know now, which doesn't really work out, right? It's kind of like that Back to the Future scene where the dude goes back into the car with the almanac. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't work like that, right? You make the best out of every situation that comes your way, and the world is always evolving. So now I'm constantly thinking, like, how can we make the Green Room University better? How can we adapt to all this like shifting and communication changes and all this kind of stuff? Kind of high level things that I think every business owner needs to be thinking about because things are shifting quickly right now, very, very fast. So anyway, going back to being social, I think being social in college ultimately got my corporate job for me. And I'll explain a little bit about this. My goals were to party a bunch, to meet everyone, and to meet a lot of girls. So let's talk about how did I do on partying, right? Because I was a social person. I got invited to like tons of parties. At first, when I was a freshman, it started with like these tiny parties, dorm room parties, where someone just clears out a little dorm room, then everyone packs in there and it's hot as F. And, they got the black lights and they got the stupid lava lamps that have neon highlighter poured in them. So it all looks kind of crazy. And why 20 people or 30 people in a dorm room, and a dorm room's small, these aren't big, right? Is an exciting thing. But quite honestly, when being a freshman, that was the thing, right? And somehow getting alcohol, that was the thing. So I found myself in multiple ones of those parties. In fact, being social got me kicked out of college twice, removed out of the University of Texas. I treated it so seriously to where I got myself kicked out. So I'll explain the first reason. When I was a freshman in the University of Texas, actually, technically, I think I got kicked out 3 times. So the first time, I went to the University of Texas as a provisional kind of student. Now, this was right out of high school, right? I was like, oh man, I'm kind of popular in high school, but I had like C's on average. And I go into University of Texas on a provisional kind of, the way that it's like I don't know how to explain it, but like they let a certain amount of people into what's called provisional status, which means if you make the grades in the summertime, you're in for the school year. So I graduated my senior year in May. I get my provisional status from June, the end of May, June, July, and halfway through August, provisional status is cut off. And then you're either in or you're out of the university, right? So they give you these college classes and they try to weed you out. Now, I think they succeeded in weeding me out because I got weeded out, right? But the question is, what did I do to get weeded out? First of all, I continued my being so social through my provisional status. I freaking partied my head off. I started working out a ton. I ate a bunch of food. I got huge. I partied my head off. I didn't make good grades, right? And they wouldn't let me into provisional status. Now that freaked out my parents quite a bit. And at this point, this was kind of where I realized I need to do a little bit of work, right? I got to start working hard, not being so social and not partying so much and everything like that. So my parents were like, well, you're coming home and you're going to go to some community college here. I was like, absolutely not. I would rather be homeless on the streets of Austin before I do that. So my parents were like, we're just going to call us bluff, right? But then I did come home, right? Because they had to pull me from the dormitory and I was like, look, on this day, it was like in August. I was like, on this day, I'm leaving. I'm going to go to Austin. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm leaving. So a couple days before that day, because they were like, we're going to call it, he's bluffing, blah, blah, blah. He's a terrible poker player and he's bluffing. Problem is I wasn't bluffing, okay? And my parents, 2 days before, like, holy crap, this kid's not bluffing. Like, he's really going to do it. This isn't good. And he's also 18. We can't keep him in the house. Like, he has ultimate freedom at this point. That's just their philosophy since day one. Second you turn 18, you can do whatever you want. So I go, You know, they sign me up for a dorm. They're like, look, live in this dorm. You figure out your entire community college situation when you get there. But we're gonna send you to a place. You know, you're gonna get at least housing, and that's it. So I get there. I realize that this is the year where I do have to really work hard. So the social thing now, grades came forward, social thing came below. I still partied, still dated girls, but you know, I really kept the grades at the top, right? So I score a 3.5, almost a 4.0 at a community college. I get accepted to UT. I really begin my social thing all over again and everything like that, which leads me to the dorm scene in UT, where now everyone's doing these dorm parties, and you know, everyone's loving Bonafide Hustler, and I'm loving everyone else, and it's really cool. And everyone's like, well, ask Chris where the party is. He always knows where the parties are. I'm starting to be this hub kind of a guy. And I realized that there's an opportunity here. There's an arbitrage opportunity laying right in front of me. So we weren't of age to get alcohol, but we like these dorm parties. So I was like, I heard of one of my friends who made fake IDs. Problem is, they weren't fake. They were actually altered IDs, which is even worse. So meaning that I don't just be like, hey, I want a fake ID and he makes me one, right? No, I surrender my actual driver's license. They peel back the layer with the hologram. They take out whatever number that's not right, and they put a number that's better. They relaminate it with the hologram. That's altering an actual government issued ID or a state issued ID. That is literally like a felony. But anyway, it was like $85, and I was like, you know what? I want the best thing because I don't want to be underage. It's not cool. You know, I was living in the peak of my socialness. And anyway, I hope you guys are still hearing this. If this is a good show, please let me know. So anyway, I become the guy in the dorm that buys alcohol for everyone else, and they give me like 20 or 40% over, you know, what a bottle costs at a liquor store. I become that guy for a solid semester. Problem is, when I came back on January from a winter break in Houston, Texas, and I'm like, yeah, another rager of a party coming on. Let's go get this alcohol. And it was like a $300 order. This is where it gets crazy, right? An undercover person comes up to me with a hoodie right when I'm taking this gigantic duffel bag full of clanking bottles, and the guy goes, what is in that bag? And I say, it's nothing. And he's like, it sounds like something. He's like, I'm undercover PD. What is in that bag? At that point, I realized my life was going to change. And so that is ultimately where I got kicked out of college the second time, is because of that. They removed me from the university, and they figured out I was supplying a wing of a dorm with alcohol. I was underage. Plus, they were like, yeah, and you know, it's kind of a felony to have this ID. Now, so it kind of shows you that grades do matter. Being social matters a whole lot, okay? And grades matter a whole lot. I think it was crucial for me to reach that low point in my life. For many reasons, because at that point, I was able to know that I could go back into academia and I can actually get good grades, near 4.0s again if I really tried hard. The problem is I didn't really care about the subject matter too much, but I just pulled off the grades to get back into the university. And fast forward to 2001, I was able to graduate. But here's where the social thing actually plays a big role. Is because I knew so many people in college. You know, I had my 5 core, and then I had so many people that I knew. When it came to the job fair, for looking for a job, because I realized, like, man, everyone's a senior, everyone's looking for a job. I haven't even started. I'm late, you know, I'm late to the game. What do I do first? Someone's like, dude, go to a suit shop, get a suit, get fitted, get it altered, and start going to career fairs and all that kind of stuff. Because the University of Texas has terrific career fairs. And a lot of the employers there want to hire from within the university, because it's like Longhorn this, Longhorn that, you know, alumni, blah, blah. We want, you know, all people from Texas. You know how it goes. And so I went to a career fair, and I saw one of my RAs from like freshman year, and he's like, hey, why don't you join this company, which was a Fortune 26 company. I was like, dude, I do not have the grades for that. And it sounds fascinating. I would love to and all this kind of stuff, but I just don't know. I don't have the grades for it. And he's like, look, I'm one of the hiring people on the team. He's like, let me get your resume, and then we'll see what happens. So he takes my resume and, like, no crap, takes it from like the bottom of the pile, literally in a literal sense, and puts it to the top of the pile. I get a phone call in a couple of days. He's like, if you can get, he's like, I can get you to the first round. He's like, after that, you're on your own. At that point, I really honed in on my craft. I was a good salesperson in Circuit City at the time, and I aced the interview like straight up. First round, second round, panel interviews, blah, 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 into the company I went. So I thought it was a very interesting way how Stay Social played an enormous part into my life. And I think this is one of those things that if, even if you're 40 years old, 35, 30, 20 years old, and you're watching this, being social and starting now is so important, okay? Unlocking all kinds of gates and opportunities. And I didn't even tell you guys that of all the amazing parties that were in UT, these parties are so like hard. Some of these are so hard to get into. It's like a club with like 50 bouncers in the front door. I mean, there's like Pike Swamp, there's World War II parties, there's Pat O'Brien's party. There's some big ones, right, that are just known historically to be the best, and they only have capacity of like 2,500 people. And guess what? I was one of the ones in that entire, 53,000 people in the university. I would say a nice half of them wanted to go to those parties. I was still one of the 2,500. Somehow I got banned. Somehow I knew people, and I treated people with respect. I stayed social, and I was able to get in, usually with a girl or like a guy, like, one other, right? Because these are so like, there's fire marshals, fire codes, and they don't let any more than 2,500 in. That's just the way it is. So it landed me really incredible opportunities that I don't think a lot of people would have ever got a chance to experience. Some of these like rager of a college party that you see on TV. And, it's literally like that, and then crazier. And I got to experience that kind of stuff. Now I can look back in my life and go, you know what? I wonder what it would have felt like, because if I see it on TV, does it really like that? And I can tell you honestly, with firsthand experience, it's like that and better. So I was able to experience that. Anything else that you ever see in college, I was able to experience it too. Fights, being a bouncer, fun stuff, did it all. So staying social was very, very important. You get to also, I think nowadays, if you are staying social, it's important because you get to realize a market. You get to realize human tendencies. Like, what are people spending their money and their time on? What kind of things are they wearing, right? You want to become a clothing designer? Start looking around your town. Like, what is everyone buying? You want to become an app designer? What is everyone like looking down on their phone? Like, peer over them at an airport, see what they're doing on their phone. It's a really good way to identify opportunities, to stay social, see what people are talking about, get into the wavelength and figure it out. Okay, so let's talk about, we got a lot of questions in here. I've always thought about making a book about this, because quite honestly, there's a lot that I leave out that you would be like, holy moly, there's no way. But one day maybe I'll tell the entire story, who knows. Okay, so the fourth thing is, I think it's very important. I think this is going to be a good one. You can remember that I was the one who said it exactly like this. Disregard money, first fitness. Disregard money, first fitness. That's very, 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 very important. One of the reasons why I was able to become so social and social butterfly is because I had confidence. Now, where the hell did I get the confidence from? I started working out. Where in the hell did I start working out? Junior year of high school. I wrote this story. There was a video on my other channel on YouTube called Bod Damn. It's a story of like how I came up in like the fitness game, I guess, in my own world, or how it started and how it kind of still is there with me. I would honestly bet that 80% of the people that I was in college with that were fit and like in the gym all the time, I bet you 80% have dropped off. I really do. And the reason why I can say that in confidence is because I still live in Austin, Texas. I still see some of these people, and no one looks the same as they did in college, with the exception of 20% of us. So that still believe fitness rules the world. Now, let's go back to that statement, disregard money, first fitness. I think it's really important because people chase this money, they get tired, and before you know it, you have kids and you start having all kinds of liabilities that like just drain you, right? Because you chase the money the entire time. You didn't realize what was the important thing to chase. Now, here's one of those things when you're 20 years old, 25, 30, all the way up to 50, who cares how old you are? You can change this at any given moment. I was on Facebook 2 years ago, right? And some girl that I'm friends with, I know her name, but I won't say it. I wouldn't say I look up to her, but she's a friend of one of my friends in college. She found me on Facebook. I found, whatever. We became friends. We never talk. It's one of those kind of friends on Facebook. You know what I'm talking about? Where you have them there, but like you just never interact with them. But I saw something on her Facebook 2 years ago that really, I think, changed a portion of my life, which was every moment that passes is another moment to change everything. And I was like, holy crap, like that is so true. Like, time is filled with moments, and the crappy thing about moments is that you don't get to get a moment back once it's passed. So that's really terrible. If you start thinking about it like that way, you're like, oh, that's scary. That's really scary. So literally, there are moments passing you by, and every one of those moments your brain, your myelin sheath, synapses, all that kind of stuff fires, right? And it's firing. And depending on what you're thinking about, you're consuming that moment with that thought, whether it's bills, success, money, family, happiness, fitness, whatever you fill your brain up in that moment is where you tend to head in with life. So when I read that statement, I was like, God, every moment that passes is another moment to change everything. I was like, holy, that is so true if you think about it. So one of these things I want you to do before when the show ends is really realize, I think the biggest thing to take back from the show will be number 4, which is disregard money, first fitness, but try to relate it to that statement, which is every moment that passes is another moment to change everything. Because I think, and I know, because I've met a lot of people, I guess through the through the reselling community and everything like that, and this through life, right? I know that we live in a time in a society where everyone knows what the right thing to do is. We're so damn preoccupied with stupid things that we forget what's really, really important. We chase money, we chase all this dumb stuff, and then before you know it, half your life has passed you by. You're at the doctor's office and you got cancer. Like, this is kind of like the reality of the matters. You really have to disregard money and really find fitness first. It's so important. I was lucky enough to have found fitness very early in life. Call me an anomaly, but I really do think that my parents forcing me to not F with Nintendo and not stay at home in the complete darkness was crucial to where I became to the person I am today, right? Literally on 100-degree summer days, I would come home from school at 3 o'clock and all my friends would go inside, start playing video games and everything like that. And my parents would kick me out of the house with a bike and they go, have fun. That was really it. And I had to make a world for myself. I had to learn where all the coolest jumps in the neighborhood were. And I had to hit it with my bike. I had to learn, sometimes I had to learn where to sneak to play video games. I ain't gonna lie. But for the most part, I was outside and I was, knocking on girls' doors that were in the neighborhood that didn't even go to my school. And I was like, hey, what's up? I'm Chris and stuff, really funny things, but that was the truth. So disregard money, first fitness, I think really is one of those things that you got to look at now and realize it is that important, because everything in this life, if you're not messing with fitness, everything is going to eat you alive. It's stacked against you. You got to be very careful with this. And it's very important to embrace fitness too. You might not think it's important for yourself, but think about your kids and think about the people that really rely on you, right? To be active and to be able to, go to the Grand Canyon and do all this fun stuff, or like, hey, daddy, come ride a bike with me. I don't have kids, right? My dad's like, look, have kids now while you're in your prime. I was like, what prime are you talking about? Like, seriously, that does not exist in my life. There's no prime in my life, because my entire life has been a prime. I've always tried to do the most and the best with what I have and have zero regrets, zero. So when he says prime, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really exist in my world, that word. And I think that's a very important thing that I found out by myself. He might be thinking he had his prime, and that's fine. But in my world, there's certain things that I realize at this point might be kind of worthless. One is saying things like prime. Second is a thing called a resume. A resume, to me, if you're a true entrepreneur and you want to work for yourself and do big things, I really think a resume is kind of, the word S-H-I-T. I just think at that point, once you leave corporate America, you should have really left it. And a resume doesn't matter anymore. Unless you're doing contractual work, yeah, whatever. But a resume at that point, I don't know if that really matters that much. Okay, so let's talk about, why fitness. It always helps you get that confidence, gets you in great shape. Your mood changes, right? You just there's so much that comes from fitness. It's one of the most beautiful things that people can embrace, because as opposed to the lottery, right? You can't just fall into being fit. You can't just one day go, okay, I'm fat, and the next day you're ripped. It doesn't work like that, right? It's sweat equity. You have to work your ass off to get there. There's no machine that's going to move your arms and curl there's nothing that's going to do that as of right now. Maybe in 20 years. But as of right now, there's nothing that does that for you. There's nothing that's going to make you run a 3-mile. There's nothing that's going to make you CrossFit. The only thing that's going to make you CrossFit is you getting into a car and going to a CrossFit gym, getting out and realizing it's about to hurt for the next 30 minutes. That is what gets you. That's the sweat equity I'm talking about. you can't fall into it. And I think it's one of the most amazing things to embrace, because it really shows not only goal orientation, but true being able to complete, these steps to get to something that is very good for yourself. Okay. I think some people might start a business and they go, okay, I got goals, but truly they're like, the business may work, may not work. I believe in it, but it might not work, right? Here's the thing about fitness. You get started and you do the right things, okay? It's going to work. That's the crazy part about fitness. It's a goal that will come to fruition if you work hard. So take a look at that. Disregard money first. Fitness, so important, okay? Money should not be in the picture. I think money will get you a certain amount of happiness and a whole lot of experiences. So I think money absolutely is crucial, but I don't want people to think that money trumps anything else in my life, because it doesn't. Fitness is the most important thing, and then it becomes friends, family, and all that kind of stuff. Because if you're not around, if you're not around and in good health, you don't get the greatest interactions with friends, family, and all that kind of stuff. If you're not mobile, you don't get these things. So yeah, fitness first, friends, family, money. So think about that. And I want to talk about the last one, which is dish compliments, and then we can go to the comment feed. And if you're liking the show, hit the like button. So important. I'll do another one. I promise you right now, if you guys hit the like button, and I'll look at this a week down the road, and next week, if this show's doing well, there will be another one. The last one is dish compliments. This is kind of tough, because if you're not number 3, it's going to be hard to be number 5. If you're not kind of a social person, how can you even dish compliments? Here's the thing. People love getting compliments, okay? People out there love it. I was at a Salvation Army yesterday, just not that yesterday, but last week, and I was petering through like the electronics section, and some guy looked at me and he gave me this kind of like creepy little smile, and he goes, "I like your body." And I was like, but I did have a tank top on, and I was kind of fresh out of the gym. And, maybe I did look a little bit bigger and all that kind of stuff. Now, he was very distanced from me, where he wasn't close, like, "I like your body," and like touching me. But there was about a 1 second uncomfortableness. And then there was about a 99-second, like, all right, that's pretty cool. Like, he dished out a compliment. I even think English was not even his primary language. He kind of like said it in a really broken up kind of sentence. Just like an older dude. And I was like, you know what? Like, it took a lot for that guy to actually say that, right? Creeper or not creeper, like, still, it takes a lot for someone to say that to a big dude, because this guy was like 5 feet tall. I mean, look at the scenario, and you're like, God, like, most people would never say crap. And the truth is, most people never say crap. So dish compliments is very important, because it's becoming almost like a dying breed, like opening a car door for a woman. When was the last time you saw that happen, right? But you know what I'm saying? It's becoming like a dying breed, because people are so engrossed in like their narcissistic lifestyle, phones, all this kind of stuff. And people are just so internally busy with their lives. And the crazy part is, if you're asking them, like, where are you at in your life, and like, how's everything going for you? I'm so busy. Okay, cool. Well, how's your financial status, and how are you doing with your fitness? And they're like, yeah, not so well. I'm like, okay, so you're really busy with life, but you haven't achieved your physical fitness status that you want, and you're not where you want to be financially. This makes no sense to me. So like, being busy for the right reasons, I love it. Being busy for the wrong reasons, I don't understand it. So let's go back to number 5, dish compliments, right? We live in a very busy lifestyle. People are crazy, and people are like always just super into themselves. If you take the second to dish a compliment to someone about something, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, really challenge yourself to look at the beauty in the world and realize that it's in every fashion and form and everything, down to like a car, what someone's wearing, the way someone did their hair, random things like, holy crap, is that the new iPhone 7? I like that phone, man. It's a really good color. Little things like that, little tiny things like that will make you stand out. And here's the crazy part about dish compliments. A lot of times, 50% of the time, it might lead to a conversation. And a conversation, if you're not some weirdo, the conversation can lead to opportunity. So dish compliments is very, very important. If you're thinking something like, oh, that's pretty, or, that's this, or that's that, or, it's a pretty cool truck, I like the lift on it, tell the person. Very important. So yeah, it makes you social. But then again, I think it's hard to dish compliments if you're not social. So, really try to embrace number 3 first, and then number 5. So we're going to recap real quick, very quickly, what I talked about. Number 1, treat people with respect. Number 2, be willing to craft your own circle. Number 3, stay social. Number 4, disregard money. First, fitness. And number 5, dish compliments. That's the show, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I will go in the comment feed right now for about 10 minutes because I got to get out of here. And strangely enough, I'm actually meeting with an Edward Jones person to potentially start up a college saving program for the kids that I don't even have. So just one of those things. I just figured right now it's just one of those times to just start saving. Even if it's like $400, $500, or $1,000 a month, hey, you know what? I'll try. The crazy part is, with my philosophy, is like college might not even be that cool in 20 years, right? When my kids finally mature, the kids that I don't have, college might be a joke, right? And I'm completely willing to, that's part of that, to realize that's part of what's going on here. But at the same time, it wouldn't hurt to have, 40 to 100K saved up somewhere, tax-free, all that kind of stuff. And to get that done, you never know. Because if the kid wants to open up a business one day, he's 18 years old and shows proficiency and I've trained him well, or, trained her well, then yeah, maybe we just use that money for something else. So that is the show. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah. So we have, I want to read some remarks, and if you got a question, let me know. Thanks for impacting my day in a positive way. Peace, Street Gallery Art. You're welcome. Muses Pieces says, what if you have social anxiety, sober, when you get drinks, you're an unstoppable party? I've lived parts of that sometimes. The crazy part is, they say in like party studies, right, that where even elevator studies, like where you go on an elevator dictates what type of person you are, extrovert or introvert, willing to talk to someone, not, depending if you go to a corner, an edge, stay in the center, right? People that stay in the center, always extroverts. Stay in a corner. I don't want anyone to bother me, likely introvert. When you're dealing with party situations, same kind of thing happens if you start going to familiar people. And I think that's one of the best like party advice I could ever give is when you go to a party, and just say you go with like a loved one, mingle, right? What the hell? Like mingle. I mean, you might be like, oh, social anxiety. Like the worst thing you can do is like follow around like one person the entire time, like follow around. In a social atmosphere, that's like what we call social raid. Raid, like the spray that kills roaches. Social raids when you see someone that like just follows someone else like the entire time. So it takes training, right? You never became a good driver right out of the box. You had to practice. And it felt uncomfortable at first. You're like, damn, I'm like operating this 3,000-pound metal thing with wheels down a street that has kids and other cars. And you know what I'm saying? Like, there are always those implications that things can go terribly wrong. But things also go amazingly right because you're driving now and you're perfectly fine, merging on a freeway, coming off, doing windy roads. That's what life's all about, is about getting out there and trying it. If you're socially awkward, telling yourself that every time is not going to make anything better. Convincing yourself that you are something better than that is always going to work, or that life is about practicing is always going to be the better way to convince your brain that anything is possible. Because it starts here, right? Anytime that I'm in a really crucial lift at the gym, for example, and it's like a bench press or something like that, there's so many times I can't tell you where I know I had it, but my mind failed me, right? And my mind was like, ooh, that next rep's going to hurt, or, this and that. Boom, I don't get the next rep. It's just the way the mind fails first. And you'll see it in fitness. Once you start getting super, super, super strong, you start to realize like, damn, the mind really, really is the first thing. Once that goes, everything goes after that. So be real careful. Okay, let's think about another thing here. Stone Mason says, good stuff as usual. I saw a comment really earlier, which is saying like, man, your party stories sound very epic. I never had, oh, here. Nick's Dynasty, you make those parties sound so amazing. My college was just decent. I recall hearing years ago about UT Austin was the party campus. I'm telling you, it was really awesome. But any other questions, I will definitely answer them real quick. Mises Pieces says, I was driving at 12. That's very scary stuff. I was kind of driving in a straight line at probably 12. I wasn't, my parent, I mean, I was like, I think I was, no, I don't know if I was. I think I was like driving around 15 and barely getting the hang of it. I learned most of my true driving with other people in the school that had cars that were in the parking lot. There were no other cars around. And they're like, all right, let me learn how to drive this stick, right? And basically like destroying their clutch. But I learned, I learned how to ride a motorcycle by myself, through people's basic instruction. A lot of things like that. I've learned everything. Everything that I can do, I've learned it, and I realized things can go crazy wrong, but I've refused to keep that thought in my head. I'm like, you know what? But things could be amazing if I learn this. And there you go. That's why I can hold my own mountain biking, wakeboarding, surfing, wake surfing, snowboarding, whatever else. I can even do slight rock climbing, really fun stuff. So I think it's very important to keep that in your mind, like always, the mind fails first. Okay, so, here's Miss Beauty 79 question. Is your wife a picker? My wife works in the healthcare industry, and she picks when she wants to. She understands the concept of thrifting. I got to say that I don't agree with her spending habits, right? Just because I agree with like her life, being active, all that kind of stuff. And the problem is she really likes this brand called Lululemon. And Lululemon is not cheap. That's the thing. And it's like the pinnacle of like workout equipment, workout clothing. And so I think it's very, very important that at some point she realizes like, man, there's like literally thousands of dollars going into this clothing, and could have saved it, could have done this, or even a renovation on the house. But no, it's going into like sports bras and like the latest and greatest leggings and all that kind of stuff. So, if I could change it all, which that's the thing about life is you can't. I would definitely say, yeah, that would be nice if that could change. But then again, she also makes very, very, very good money. And at some point you have to splurge a little bit. You have to buy things that really make you happy, right? It might not make you happy forever, but if they give you confidence and they make you feel good for a pretty decent amount of time, then yeah, I start to see a little bit of what she's talking about. But then again, some of her leggings are like just normal Nike ones, and ones that are like 20 or 30 bucks. And I'm like, all right, they fit just the same. So at that point, I'm like, what the hell, Anyway, so there's some things that I buy new too. Don't get fooled here, okay? Lucky says, Chris, your goddamn channel helped me get toned up and getting abs. Let's just say I got lucky this summer. He. Yeah, guys, if you ever want to check out the, you know how I said disregard money, first fitness. I do have another YouTube channel called Bod Damn. Okay, it's a play on words, BODDAMN. You can go check it out. It's got plenty of fitness stuff in there, right? It's a little bit more male-oriented, I ain't gonna lie, but it's got plenty of really, really good fitness advice in there, because I've been in the fitness game for 2 decades, and quite honestly, it's freaking the most amazing game to ever be in. So I just wish to impart, a tiny piece of my knowledge on that channel, and if it starts taking off, then I guarantee you there's gonna be a whole lot more coming. So, but yeah. I think it's very important to always give as much as you can. That's important. And then, of course, my other real big passion is like flipping and reselling and running the greenroomuniversity.com, which is fun. I love it. So it's like the very first time where I've ever really felt like, man, this is like being like this is a true entrepreneur. And now I am a true entrepreneur. Whereas some of the other stuff were short-lived stints and all that kind of stuff. Like this is one of these where I'm like, wow, I actually see a big future with this company. I like it. And I feel blessed that I was one of the founding forces behind it. I just feels good. I mean, you go with what you love in life, and it's like you can't go wrong. You can fail, but ultimately, if you keep going, you don't go wrong. So, yeah, as long as what you love has a market, you can kind of project it as something that can help other people. Because let's face it, if your love in life is intramural basket weaving, right? I just don't know how far that's going to go on YouTube or Instagram or anything, or if the general population is going to care about it. But when it comes to stuff like making money, online, entrepreneurship, loopholes, garage sales, now we're talking about stuff that like literally every person in America is close to the thrift store, a garage sale. And if they can learn the art, guess what? We are going to put money on their plates. And one day, we'll have a repeat customer. That's what it's all about. So plenty of free videos if you don't ever want to get into the greenroomuniversity.com. Freaking 5 billion free videos on my channel, on Raking Profits channel as well, who is my co-founder, and then College Pickers channel as well. Plenty of free videos, right? Get started with the free stuff. Yeah, it's just really good stuff. And while I have you guys here, one of our free things, you may as well just check it out. It's down below. We have, if this entices you to like start flipping or even know what we're talking about, get this book right here, this guide down below, 100 amazing items to resell, PDF on your phone, study it, go to garage sales, make money. Okay, so Mr. Too Easygoing, I'm gonna Mises Pieces, Bonafide, who's a breadwinner, you or your wife, we basically get very equal when it comes to money. Quite because I know this for a fact because when we did our taxes, like we are very, very close. Mr. Too Easygoing says, I'm going to complain to my boss at work about the crappy internet connection. I can't watch the Bonafide Hustler work. That's pretty funny. Me, Yesme, and Mises Pieces, where's Retro, where's Young? We're going to be giving like a kind of a news update maybe next week about that and everything like that. In a nutshell, we have split ways in a very respectful manner, in a business manner. So I'll say that as that, and then maybe we can elaborate later next week. So terrific person, by the way. Still, hear from him in text, talk, whatever. But it's just one of these things that we'll elaborate more on a further day. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, right? And if you had epiphanies or you felt good or something, this is something you want episode 2, then hit the like button right there, or you can share the show, right, with other people on your Facebook group. Share the show, right? Because this is not anything to hoard. This is nothing to be greedy about. This is really important information that starts out broad, but I tried to really apply it to how I did it in my life and how it can work for you. Because for me to just go out and be like, all right, here are my tips. Treat people with respect. Number 2, be willing to craft your own circle and not actually explain it in a certain context that makes sense. I think the show would be worthless. But I really tried to show you guys that it came from my life experiences, and I think it really, really, really like help you guys out. So if you did like the show, hit the like button. I'll see you on the next one, which will be next week. Hopefully, like I said, if we get a lot of likes on this show, it's coming next week. Take it easy.